Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the April meeting of Solidarity Lowell. Just a reminder, this meeting, as you have just heard, is being recorded. Apologies for any weirdness. I forgot my laptop at home, so I am doing this manually with the Zoom cart here at UCC Dracut. Just some quick guidelines. Again, it's being recorded. It'll be put on YouTube and LTC. Our timekeeper is Chris Offerman, and please be mindful of time limits. Our note taker is Ryan Hammond. To speak, please use the raise hand function in Zoom or type a star into the chat and wait to be called on. Our stacker is Joe Boyle. Captions are available if you need them through Zoom. We also remind everyone, step up, step back. If you're speaking a lot, please step back and let others speak. If you are not speaking, please step up. We want to hear from everybody. Assume positive intentions. And if your words do cause hurt, the person who is hurt can say ouch, and you can be accountable and respond by saying oops and discuss as needed, however much you are comfortable. And as I always remind myself, I feel like this is just for me. Please speak slowly. All right, so our agenda today, we'll start with our intros and land acknowledgement, and then talk about Solidarity Lowell, news and committee updates, and then allied organization updates. So if you're here to promote another group, please do so then. And then we'll have our featured speaker. Joe, you can mute yourself. No, mute. There you go. The joys of Zoom. Then we'll have our featured speaker, who I hope is going to be online, Caroline Sullivan from the Democracy Behind Bars Coalition. If she doesn't show, we'll talk about something else, other stuff. All right, yeah, and then we'll wrap up around just before 7. So let's start by introducing yourself. Give your name, your pronouns, where you live, and what was your first concert. My name is Marissa DuPont. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I live in South Lowell, and my first concert was Cyndi Lauper, and Eddie Money opened. It was great. All right, Ryan.
My name is Ryan Hammond. My pronouns are he, him. I live in the Acre, and my first concert was ZZ Top in 1994.
Joseph Boyle, he, him. I live in the Highlands, and my first concert was In Excess with Ziggy Marley. Wow.
Hi, I'm Paul Gaudette. I live in the Highlands. My pronouns are he, him. My first concert, I think, was Peter, Paul, and Mary. My older sister took me, because I was too young, to Symphony Hall in Boston.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Chris?
That's Ackerman, Shears, with downtown Lowell. First concert, we didn't do those kinds of concerts where I grew up, so I'll have to pass on that one.
Ron?
I'm Ron Peastree. I live on Christian Hill, he, him. My first concert was with my mother when I was an extremely little chucker at Woodstock.
Oh,
You didn't tell me that.
Absolutely.
My name is Mitch Paul, and I live in the Acre. Him first concert was They Might Be Giants and Patti Smith in Boston. Just sweet.
That's fantastic. All right, Amy.
Your concerts are all so good, and I can't believe I'm about to admit mine. But Amy Baranowski, pronouns are she, her. I live in the Acre, and my first concert with my older cousin was Motley Crue.
Wow, that's awesome. What are you talking about?
Good one. That's very cool.
All right, who's here? D. Oh, she might have stepped away.
We sort of see E, but we don't.
Oh, no, there she is.
There she is.
Dee, do you want to introduce yourself?
D. Helsack, she, her. I live in the Acre.
And
I can't remember my first concert. There were so many.
Okay. Strayvon?
The haze.
Hello everyone, my name is Sullivan, she or her. I live at the Bay Central. I don't have like a first concert. I grew up different generation other side, and the only I remember the first time I ran around to like the TV station, watch the light from there.
Okay. All right, Ozo.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. Ozo, my pronouns he, him. I live at Lowell Transitional Living Center. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe the first concert I went to, I think it was a summer jam. It was including like Jay-Z, DMX. So it was way back in like the early to mid 90s, I want to say. I'm foggy on the details, but I believe that's the first concert I've been to.
It
But
sounds
thanks everybody for having me today.
All right, John Grossman.
John Grossman, him, Pawtucketville, and what's the other?
What first concert?
First concert I went to? I don't know. Best concert I went to, which was one of the earlier ones, was Bob Marley
Nice.
and the Wailers in
Nice.
Cambridge,
Nice.
Harvard Stadium.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'll give you the first concept, not that I thought.
Okay, okay.
Beethoven's First Symphony.
Okay,
My mother took me.
nice.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Okay, our land acknowledgement. Let me see if I did this right. I don't know if I did. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. No, I probably didn't. All right, hold on a second, folks. Let me see if I can get this to work. Of course, it went to something else. Go back. Aha. Oh, and then of course, this thing's in the wrong spot. All right, we're gonna make this happen. Okay, we must acknowledge that the land in Lowell is that of the Pennacook. However, acknowledging the Pennacook as sovereign of this land is complex. After rampant colonization carried out through genocide, biological warfare, slavery, and other inhumane methods, the Pennacook were no longer present in Lowell by the beginning of the 18th century. This in no way means that there is no longer any Native American presence in Lowell. Local indigenous people will refer to themselves as Pawtucket, Abenaki, Wamasett, or even Pennacook, indicating the long and intricate history of this place. The current Native American population here is a testament to the resilience of the indigenous people, as well as their venerated connection to the land. Only when we acknowledge this land and its history properly are we able to understand how to recover from an unjust past. This is why we begin with this statement. Please educate yourself further on the indigenous presence and contributions to Lowell or wherever you consider your home. We are living on land that was stolen, and by educating ourselves and connecting with our local indigenous groups and organizations, we together can work on creating a more equitable community that works for us all. Now we'll go back to the slides. And now I have to move this thing again or not. I'm not good at PCs. There we go. I used to be good at PCs. I'm not anymore. All right. What is Solidarity Lowell? If you're not familiar, we are a volunteer group of Greater Lowell community members working towards social justice by defending the rights, dignity, and equality of all against hate and discrimination. We're a chapter of Progressive Massachusetts and a Merrimack Valley Project affiliate. And our coordinating committee is your elected team running the meetings, organizing events, disseminating relevant news, and sharing call to action. Please wave if you are on the coordinating committee. Oh, you can't see my hand. There it is. And our elections are today. So if you are interested in running, just let us know during that time. And you can just say a few words about yourself, or if there's someone else you'd like to nominate, please feel free. They do have to consent in order to be part of the coordinating committee, though. We don't just, grab people and force them. Yep. All right, so victories for the month. I gotta close this for 1 second just to be able to see this. Okay. Lowell received $7.5 million from the Housing Development Incentive Program to build 132 units of market rate housing. Area nonprofits and the city of Lowell are tentatively scheduled to receive nearly $7 million in federal grants next fiscal year. Susan Crawford won the Wisconsin court election despite Elon Musk spending $250 million for her opponent.
Yeah.
The CHNV, Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans parole program remains valid. A federal judge put on hold the Trump administration's order to end the program, allowing individuals who entered through CHNB to remain and work in the United States. And a U.S. judge Thursday blocked federal agencies from carrying out key parts of President Donald Trump's sweeping executive order on elections. Does anyone else have anything positive they'd like to share? We're all a wealth of positivity today, I see. All right.
Oh, we have 1,000 new indivisible and progressive Massachusetts members in the last month.
Oh, that's great.
We've got 10 new chapters of indivisible popping up all over the country every month.
Great.
The 89.7 million who sat on their chair and didn't vote during 2024 appear to actually be waking up.
Oh, thank goodness.
So that I think is actually
Yeah, judging by the rallies, it seems like people are waking up. It's a good thing. Anyone online have anything positive to share that we missed? Okay. I feel like I should think of something right now, but I can't. All right, moving on. So we are scheduling meetings with our state reps right now and our state senator to talk about the progressive mass agenda and other important issues such as affordable housing and the unhoused population. We met with Rep. Vanna Howard on Friday. She has already signed on to a large portion of the progressive mass agenda, which we expected, and she's going to review the rest of the bills and hopefully sign on to those. Anyone who is there, do you want to talk about that meeting?
Vanna Howard is very strongly supportive of the progressive mass legislative agenda as it was laid out. She is already on board and signed on with almost everything that was on there and was very open to everything else. Chris, in detail.
That is pretty much, this is how she was every year since she got in office, so I didn't expect anything different. We also can always get a meeting out of her on fairly short notice. She's very communicative, so I have no problem at all with her.
Yes,
at all. And the very few agenda points that she had not yet signed on to, we pointed them out to her. She said she hadn't got around to reading them yet, but promised she will read them. And from previous conversations with her, I am quite certain that she will indeed read them. She reads everything. How
Yep.
she does it, when she does it, I do not know.
She has boundless energy.
But she does.
And I think some of them, she said, she had even signed on in the past and just hadn't come across them again.
Yes, there was one of them in particular, I forget which one, that Jonathan Cohen asked about. And in the meantime, she had signed onto it last year and not this year. And in the meantime, between him asking and me responding, she had already signed on to it again.
That's great.
So, yeah, we're good with her.
Ozo?
Okay, thank you again. So I understand, I mean, this is very important stuff. I just read through the agenda myself, and my apologies for being so emotional as I am. I mean, it's like I said, it's a very urgent situation and it's right in front of my face each and every day. So I know this stuff is important. It's like kind of the skeleton, if you will, of the whole operation. We need that stuff behind it. But when we're meeting with these reps, can we sort of put the pressure on for them to support the directly the unhoused community, because we're losing funding every day. I don't know if you guys read in the Sun, we weren't included in the last round of funding, whatever that fund was. I'm sorry if I don't know the detail, but we're losing funding by the day. You saw I think today they were mentioning all the open positions and they pay like shit. So of course they're not going to be able to hang on to people. There's a lot of things going on down here, and I'm not going to get into the big long list of things, but can we maybe put together some sort of framework for hey, can you be a little bit more outspoken for and it seems almost selfish when I do this, but it's for the Lowell Transitional Living Center. Obviously, this is the flagship operation in town that serves the unhoused. So how there's not more outspoken behavior going on with the reps, that's what gets to me. I would be out there you know, I mean, you guys know how I am. So I don't understand how they're not like that. And again, I just want to back it up by saying I understand the agenda is very important. But I don't see the oomph behind like, okay, like let's take care of this problem instead of defunding it, you know?
Yeah,
And
I
thank you.
understand. So ahead of the sweep that happened last Tuesday, I was in touch with her and she was trying to work from her end of things to either delay or push it off or stop it from happening altogether, or at least at the very least, make sure these folks are treated as, humanely and as humans, as people. And she was very helpful. Unfortunately, she was not able to stop them. But she does care deeply about all of the issues. Anything that you want to talk to her about, just reach out. I mean, I have her phone number. You can text her. She texts me all the time. She's very responsive. And yeah, I mean, if there's something going on that you think she can help with, yeah, let her know. Or if it's something that you think we can help with and we should all like write to her about, yeah, let us know and we'll put it in the newsletter.
Yeah,
Mitch.
I just noted that right now is budget season, basically from late spring through the middle of the summer usually is when the legislature is writing the budget and figuring out what can get funded.
Yep.
So that doesn't necessarily mean that money is going to be available tomorrow or next week, but the decisions are getting made now about what gets funded next year.
Yeah. Yeah. And, Progressive Mass obviously cares about affordable housing and the unhoused population. So the bills that they're putting forth some of them at least are going to benefit the unhoused. Joe.
Following up on both Ozo and Mitch, the Progressive Mass agenda, hopefully everybody's seen it. It's about bills which are about policies or programs or something like that, but it doesn't really have a budget element. And we got beyond that specific agenda to talking about budget issues like this. Like it turns out that Rep. Howard told us she had a meeting with the city manager and I think some city councilors were there to talk about priority budget issues, and and that's a regular thing that happened. And I asked if. And she said in response, told us that in response to my question, is the delegation putting on a push to get money for a second Lowell shelter? And she said she had that meeting and the idea of a second Lowell shelter wasn't brought up as one of the budget priorities. It had never come to her as that. So I think maybe so Solidarity Lowell meets with our reps, the Progressive Mass agenda plus budget, with a little more local focus on the budget end.
And we could always do another meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that focuses more on that. But I think the push that the city councilors are doing right now, Wayne and Vesna accepted, is to move the LTLC, which is why they don't want a second shelter. Yeah, which is problematic in itself because build a second shelter, leave LTLC where it is. But anyway. All right. Ron, yes.
Also, one of the things that might be useful is you're seeing a lot of stuff that quite frankly doesn't get well documented, well publicized. And if we're going to put pressure on electeds to address a certain issue, obviously, first and foremost, we need to know what it is. So maybe something that we can do to help out a little bit is as these things come across your desk and you see what's going on because you're right there. Well, it's figuratively, as this stuff comes to your attention, let's write it up and get it to the rest of us so that we can turn around and decide amongst ourselves how we want to engage the city council and our elected reps about it. And then maybe we can be a little bit more effective and efficient at actually addressing the stuff that you're concerned with. Right now, we basically hear something's happened and we don't have a lot of details and we're not finding out in as timely a fashion as I think we'd like to. So maybe that's something we can do, improve the communications path between you and us, and then we can use that to worry about how we get leverage.
Yeah, it's not really it's not like one issue or another. It's all just funding based. And the things that we want done down here would just, it takes funding. We have like, I don't know, like we're doing a fundraiser for the Walk to Home, and I have a slew of ideas, and that's not just my ideas, like that's our ideas, and there's plenty more where that comes from, and it just takes funding, Ron. It's not like, oh, I'm gonna report certain issues and this and that. Like I've already done that. You've read the paper, the front page. I mean, I'm a part of that. So I don't think any more needs to be said about the conditions here or anything of the sort. What needs to happen is the operation needs to get funded. This place needs to get really cleaned up and fix what you have before you start going into a second, third, whatever. I mean, there is good supporting shelters around. I mean, I realize this. I'm not blind to this, but then the flagship is being neglected. So I don't understand that part. So that's sort of where I'm coming from. It needs funding. I have the long list of ideas, and that will be expanding. So if you'd like to peruse those, you can. It's really it's nothing I haven't already said. So again, thank you though.
May I jump in
Chris.
there? I think we're still all talking in circles here and we're all thinking the same thing, but although you say you need funding, we're saying we need details. If we just go to the electeds and say the center, the LTLC needs funding, is one thing.
Chris, I just said that there's a long list, and I've already said a whole bunch of things in a public setting in that arena. So if that can't be taken for what it is, I don't like to continue to keep, beating the dead horse, so to speak. Like I've already said a whole bunch of things that could be done if people would just review what I've already said and then take it to them, because they've already seen it. Some of them, at least, they pay close attention to those meetings. So I've already said it in plain English. So I shouldn't have to continue to like bang away at something that I've already said time and time again. And it's right there. It's a long list of stuff.
Welcome
So,
to the politics, Ozo.
Yeah, no, I mean, but I would, that's the type of politics that I'm gonna play. Hey, if I say, just take it at face value, this is what it is, this is what we need. Like, I know there's messaging involved and you have to keep at it sort of, but not when you're directly communicating with
I know.
people. And there should be a level of respect there to where I wouldn't have to continue to keep saying the same thing to the same people over and over again. So, and excuse me again, this is just my feeling around that type of communication. I think it's somewhat disrespect for me to have to keep going back and saying the same exact thing every single time to the same exact people. So, and again, I apologize if I come off a little.
Don't apologize. We all feel the same way. We're all doing the same things. It's,
Yeah.
you're so much closer to the issue. So it's, it affects you that much more. Whereas us, we're just a little bit, step back from it.
Yeah. No, we can continue to talk about it, and you'll get a feel for what I'm talking about. So I'm touchy about it because I'm right in the middle of it and I'm emotional about it. So
yeah, no, I understand.
So it is what it is, but we'll just continue to talk about it,
Awesome.
We'll take this offline and talk about it separately and get into more detail of how we're best gonna move forward here.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Very quickly, I don't care what it is you're talking about. 2 lessons I learned in management a long time ago. 1, you over communicate by a factor of 10 or 20 if you want to get anything done. And 2, if it's not in writing, it doesn't happen. And so regardless of what thing we're specifically talking about, conversations are important, but we have to turn them into written documents. And I hate the fact that we have to over communicate, but as long as humanity has been managing other people, over communicating by a factor of 10 or 20 is just part of the formula. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Okay. Well,
all right.
We'll
moving on.
Yep.
So yes, the meeting with Vana went great. We will meet with her again at some point, and we will let you know when that is. Amy is organizing our meeting with Tara Hong. So if you are interested in joining in on that, if you are a constituent or not, contact her, amy@solidaritylowell.com. We are also organizing a meeting with Rep. Rodney Elliott. Ryan Oates is organizing that. He was unable to be here today. He's on vacation. You can contact him. Just email contacts@solidaritylowell.com for any of these. And Joe is organizing our meeting with Senator Ed Kennedy. Again, all are welcome, but constituents are especially encouraged. Okay, so the Lowell Together Coalition. This is the coalition that I've mentioned in the past few meetings. This is basically to change the municipal government to be a little more progressive, shall we say. So we're currently interviewing potential candidates for endorsement. We have an extensive questionnaire that we are interviewing them with. And then after that, we will discuss the questionnaires and then decide who we're going to endorse. Afterwards, we will provide support in the form of, you know, all of the things, helping with campaign management, helping with volunteer, you know, getting volunteers, scheduling volunteers, scheduling canvassing and phone banks and text banks, marketing, emails, logos, all of the things. So if you are interested in being involved, please contact us, contact@solidaritylowell.com. And especially if you know someone who should run for office, please, for the love of all things holy, contact us. Our next meeting is Monday, May 5th at 6 at CMAA. Get there early because the parking is a little bit of a nightmare. Okay, then our housing coalition, which we started prior to the other coalition. That's why we're calling it Lowell Together. And then this is the separate housing coalition. This is our efforts with LLAMA. We're continuing the work of advocating for humane treatment of our unhoused neighbors and for affordable housing. The next meeting is tomorrow, Monday, at 5:30 p.m. at McPherson Park, which is at 984 Bridge Street in Lowell. We'll be debriefing on the sweep that happened last week and discuss next steps. They always need money to help the unhoused neighbors, so you can donate via their mutual aid fund at Lowell Llama on Venmo or $ Lowell Llama on Cash App. And if you'd like to get involved, you can email llamahousingAction@gmail.com. Hey, Amy, are you there?
Sorry, first of all, my allergies are acting up and I keep coughing.
So
So
proof of your background.
I
Getting
feel
ready
the
for
same
later.
way, Amy.
Yeah, so the next postcard writing event will be Thursday, May 9th, 6 p.m. Over at Lala Books. We don't have a topic yet, but please come out if you want to get involved or let me know, just so we have an idea of how many postcards and stamps and things to bring. Amy at solidaritylowell.com.
Thanks, Amy. Ryan, DDD.
All right, let me get back to that one because I still trying to take other notes.
Oh, okay. Well, I can do it if you want.
Yeah, could you please? Because
But
I'm in the wrong. Oh, it's up there. Okay, never mind. I got it. Demonstrate, dine, and discuss. The next event will be Friday, June 13th at 5:30 p.m. We haven't chosen a restaurant or topic yet, but if you would like to make signs, contact me at ryan@solidarityLowell.com.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Sorry.
It's okay. All right, Amy, do you want to do this one?
Yes. Okay. So this is what used to be the gala. They used to call it. Now it's the virtual awards night for Progressive Mass. It is their main fundraising event of the year. And you could read the list of awardees this year. They're really trying to branch out. So there's some really good awardees listed there. It is immediately, and I do mean immediately, after this meeting, 7 o'clock on Zoom. So you can follow that Zoom link. I'll copy and paste it into here. There is a suggested donation of $35, but you know, give what you can, and if you can't give anything, message me and I could give you the freebie link behind the scenes. But please do try and attend. It should be fun, and it should be very interesting to hear about all of these different groups and celebrate all of the great work they've done throughout the year.
Yeah, if you can't read them, I know the text is kind of small. It's the African American Coalition Committee, Emily Anesta, Bay State Birth Coalition, Tanya Nislucent from Mass Equality, Kelly Turley, Mass Coalition for the Homeless, and Andrea Park, also from Mass Coalition for the Homeless, and Mass Power Forward Coalition. Okay, so we like to put all of our upcoming events on the same screen so you can see them. We've got the awards night tonight, the Housing Coalition tomorrow, Lowell Together Coalition May 5th, the postcards on May 8th. Lowell Democratic Caucus is coming up on May 10th. That's at 9:30 a.m. at the Riley School. Ozo mentioned the LTLC Steps to Home 5K and Ice Cream Social. That's June 7th at 10 a.m. at 225 Middlesex Street. The Lowell Pride Parade and Festival is also on June 7th from noon to 4 at the DCR Lowell Heritage State Park. That's the Sampass Pavilion. Acrefest is also on June 7th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. June 7th is a very busy day. And then DDD is June 13th at 5:30. And you can see all of our events on our website. Okay, so now we have time for our allied groups to make any announcements or
May I go first?
important information. Of course you will.
Yeah, thank you. I just have to be somewhere else. So
Okay,
I'd like
I
to get
understand.
this done.
Yep.
I'm Paul Godet from Merrimack Valley Project, and a week from today, our parent organization, new from the last year's MCAN, Massachusetts Community Action Network. They're doing a day-long training in Worcester, and MVP will pick up the tab for anybody who would like to attend. You don't have to be, well, you're already an affiliate member of MVP already, so. I'll leave some of these flyers
Great.
with the details. It's gonna be at Carpenter's Hall in Worcester. So that's next Sunday, May 4th, from 10:30 to 6 with 2 meals. And people from across the state talking about the agenda. And it's entitled Organizing 101. The DNA of MVP and its parent organization is called relational organizing. So that the distinction is that we don't stay on one topic if other things become more urgent. So it's building coalition, building power. As the issues change, we use our power to respond. So I left some flyers here. You can also just go on the MCAN site under events, and there's a registration form there. Don't worry about the fee. MVP will cover all that.
Okay.
And the other detail, talk about overlap, is that Galila is having its
Oh, no.
spring event
Oh, no.
the same afternoon,
7th or June 4th?
just May
May 7th,
4th.
May 4th.
Okay.
Just the way what happened around Thanksgiving, it also was our awards night.
Yeah.
It just happened. But MCAN set this date,
Yeah.
we were unaware of it. Anyway, the topic, it's gonna be first of all, it's at UU Church, First Parish in Chelmsford. Doors open at 2:45. And the topic is Indigenous peoples. And the quote is, "We were treated like animals, from atrocity to community." And there will be a showing of the film Bounty, one word. It's an 8-minute film. You can see the trailer online. It's a devastating film, but it's current Indigenous folks talking to their children about this document that was signed in Massachusetts, putting a bounty on the heads of any native peoples, equivalent to like $20,000 if you bring in a scalp, things like that. It's horrible. So that's happening. I don't know Tom's last name, but he will be there for questions and answers and to introduce the film.
Come to me in a second.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm talking about.
There'll be a short worship service following the film and discussion, and then refreshments.
Tom Libby.
There you go,
Thank you.
Tom Libby. Yeah. So I apologize for my absence, but I thought I could show up in person.
Thank you.
I'll leave these flyers
Yeah.
and
And I encourage everybody to attend the Organizing 101. I think it's a good foundation. I mean, I've been doing this for a really long time and I never got trained, so I would like to actually know if what I'm doing is right. So,
no
yeah.
background is required, just a willingness to learn.
Yep.
It's
So if anyone wants to carpool, let me know.
We'll probably be carpooling too from St. Patrick's
Yes.
Parish.
Okay, great.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Yes, thank you, Paul.
Good night.
Have a good one. All right, anyone else want to talk about any announcements, important stuff from other groups? Mitch?
Yeah, I know the caucus, the City Democratic Caucus on May 10th at 9:30 a.m. at the Riley School has already been mentioned. It's a good opportunity to meet other people involved with local party politics. And obviously, it's the election for delegates to go to the state convention in Springfield this year. The Springfield convention this year is mostly just an issues convention, but it's still a great opportunity.
Great. Anyone else? Okay. Okay. All right, so now quickly we'll do our coordinating committee. We're not really going to do like the election right now, but we're here from the coordinating committee members who are up for election. The coordinating committee has 10 total seats and 2 members are in the middle of their term, which means that there are 8 available spots. It is a 2-year term and responsibilities include 2 additional meetings a month, daily review and input on our Discord server. But there's also a complete list of responsibilities listed in our bylaws. And if you need those, we can send those over. We'll be discussing them next month as well. So our SL voting members, folks who have attended at least 3 meetings in the last 12 months, will receive an electronic ballot in the next 1 to 2 days to vote. And if you don't vote, we'll probably call you because we need a quorum. So please just fill it out the first time. That would be great. All right, so our incumbents seeking re-election, we'll start with Amy Baranowski. Amy, could you please say a few words about yourself?
Yeah. So I have been on the coordinating committee since 2017, it must have been. I do a bunch of stuff behind the scenes. Mostly I send out the weekly newsletter via email. I lead the postcarding event, do some tabling and things like that. I am also, as of 2025, on the board of Progressive Mass. I took some quick notes when I remembered I was going to have to do this. Let's see, what else did I say? Yeah, just beyond that, I mean, especially with the times the way that they are, I am looking forward to just trying to streamline and better organize some of the things that we're currently doing, but also look ahead and think about some new ways to do things. And also, since I am on the board of Progressive Mass, hoping to increase collaboration and coordination between those 2 groups.
Okay, so I am also seeking re-election. If you don't know, my name is Marissa DuPont. I am currently on the coordinating committee. I'm also on the board of the Merrimack Valley Project, which Paul was just talking about. I do a lot of stuff as well. I don't know. Of course, now that I try to think of all the things I do, I can't remember any of them, but I help organize a lot of the things behind the scenes. I do a lot of like the graphics, the marketing, that sort of stuff for Solidarity Lowell. I help out with tabling. Anything that needs to be done, I will do. I am also, I liaise with other groups in the area. I have been involved with Llama's efforts to help the unhoused and I don't know, other stuff. I'm bad at this. You can tell I didn't prepare at all. Okay, Ryan, you are next.
My name is Ryan Hammond. I am running for my 2nd term. I do a lot of setting up tents and tables early at events. I am trying to set up something with LTC, although we don't know if it's going to work currently or not. I've done a little bit of writing for Solidarity Lowell, although not a ton. Excuse me. And I've also done some decent presentations for the meetings, and I've also set up a couple of speakers in the past. I'm hoping to get something else interesting going with a potential speaker for the group, but I don't know if that's going to happen. It's all up in the air, but I'm always trying to learn more skills and I want to try and do better again the next time.
Okay, Mitch.
Hey, I'm Mitch Paulin. I was first elected in 2023. So this would be a 2nd term. I'm also ward chair of the Lowell Democratic Committee. So I'm involved in trying to organize things around the community and trying to stay in touch with local political actors and help move things in a direction that pushes causes and candidates in local and area elections. So I'd also like to, continue to do that.
Great. Ron?
I'm Ron Peastree. I have been involved with this since the very early days, but I've only been on this coordinating committee recently. I'm the wandering all over eastern and central Massachusetts activist, and I try and bring that back to us so that we stay plugged in and we know what's going on. I'm also very, very active with regards to voting rights. And like a few other people here, I actually work for the city in the capacity of a precinct warden or a voting official. And I hopefully help us do that as well. And then it's just put my hand wherever it's needed when it's needed. That's what I try and do.
All right. On our folks that were added midterm by the coordinating committee who are now seeking official election, we'll start with Sravan.
Hello everyone, my name is Ivan. I'm seeking for like midterm election, and also I'm the DIY board member and citizen for public school board member. Most of the job that I do relate to community outreach. I will be like have like to do like outreach or for voting, and also I'm kind of like connect to the food pantry to access for help people for like apply for to getting the food, and also I can help jump around for if someone like need help, and also I'm work while with the teamwork and also while connect to the community base. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. So Ryan Oates is on vacation right now. He's awesome. We love him. He makes great videos. He's been super excited to jump in with both feet with everything. Anyone else want to say any words about him? He's great.
Lots of energy.
Yeah.
Last year, I had the privilege of working with Ryan Oates on question 2, the MCAS question, where he helped organize canvases in Lowell for that, and he provided the volunteers, and I provided the literature, the palm cards, and the guy knows his stuff.
He does. He was great. All right, so the floor is open for nominations. Does anyone else want to nominate themselves or someone else? I'm just gonna wait until it's uncomfortable.
I'd like to run against Ron, please.
That's not how it works. You would just be running with Ron because there are 10 open seats or 8.
Oh, all right. That takes all the fun out of it.
But we would love to have you if you want to join.
I was gonna really take the fun out of it. You want it that bad, it's yours.
All righty. Well, thank you everybody for your nominations of yourself and your descriptions of yourselves. And we'll be, like I said, we'll be sending out that it's a Google form ballot either tonight or tomorrow, probably, to the voting members who have been to at least 3 meetings in the last 12 months, I guess. Okay, and now we'd like to get to our featured speaker, Caroline Sullivan from the Democracy Behind Bars Coalition. DBBC is a coalition of advocacy and community organizations and individuals on both sides of the wall who fight to protect the right of incarcerated people to participate in democracy and hold government accountable. Caroline Sullivan has been involved in the DBBC since spring 2021, where she focuses on the campaign to restore universal voting rights. Born and raised in Yarmouth, Massachusetts, Caroline is currently a second-year law student at NYU School of Law. And you can type your questions in the chat or use the raise hand function on Zoom, but let her do her presentation first. Awesome. Thank you very much. Caroline, take it away.
Hi, thank you so much for having me be here. I know he's on vacation, but it was actually Ryan Oates who invited me to be in this space tonight. I'm excited to just take a few minutes to talk about the work, and then happy to answer any questions. I'm going to share like a presentation if that's okay. I have like a very simple one. I don't know if I have capabilities to do that.
There you go. You should be all set.
Awesome. Great. Awesome. So I'm really excited to talk about some of our universal voting restoration work. As the kind of intro mentioned, I started to get involved with the Democracy Behind Bars Coalition in 2021. I still kind of retain that identity within the group, but we've kind of come together to create a collaborative project right now between a few different groups called the Empowering Descendant Communities to Unlock Democracy Project. And this kind of larger project has a few different aspects, and tonight I'm going to try to give a little overview of our universal voting work. So as I mentioned, the project brought a few different groups together, including the Democracy Behind Bars Coalition, but we also worked very closely with the African American Coalition Committee at MCI Norfolk, which someone mentioned at the beginning, they're getting one of the awards tonight from Progressive Mass, Healing Our Land, Inc., and the Mindage Project for Engaged Scholarship. So all these different groups have kind of loosely worked in this coalition space for a long time. But last year in the fall, we kind of came together to get some grant money to put this project forward in a more systematic way. And there's kind of two main aspects to the project. The first half of the work is focused on jail-based voting. And so that is focused on people who retain the right to vote while incarcerated. That's typically people who are held pretrial or incarcerated for misdemeanors. And there was a law that the Democracy Behind Bars Coalition was involved in passing in 2022 that has strengthened the protections for that. And so kind of one half of our team really focuses on ensuring that there's meaningful enforcement of that new law and those protections, but also helping to do kind of get out the vote work behind the bars in Boston jails, and also doing kind of more broadly civic engagement work with eligible incarcerated voters. And so that's kind of what one half of the team is doing. And the kind of second half, which I focus on, is our universal voting restoration work. And so our aim is to take the next big step, and that is to end felony disenfranchisement in the state. So people who are held pretrial, as I mentioned, or convicted of misdemeanors do not lose their right to vote while incarcerated, but people who are convicted of felonies do. And kind of our focus there is taking that big step. And I think one thing that I'm happy to answer any questions about that I think makes our work and our team really unique is that we are led by and work very closely with currently incarcerated individuals as well as formerly incarcerated individuals. I think there was a little confusing on the timing tonight, but I was hoping one of my kind of co-organizers would be able to call in from MCI Norfolk. So we kind of prioritize as a leadership model to make sure that we are being led and informed by the people who are most impacted by these policies. And so that is people who are behind bars. It sometimes makes our weekly Zoom calls a little more logistically difficult, but we always like kind of continue to prioritize that focus. And I think that is something that makes our model unique. And we try to pair people to allow more and more incarcerated people to call in to these meetings and to this organizing work. Great. So I'm not going to kind of harp on this too much because I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with kind of the main arguments for why to restore universal voting rights to all kind of eligible voting age citizens in the state. But I just wanted to highlight four kind of main pushes that we're putting forward. The first is democracy. I think as we see democracy under attack across the country, the time is now to say that voting is a fundamental right, and we're not fulfilling our promise in Massachusetts if we're excluding people from that process. A second aspect is that there's a racially imbalanced impact of stripping the right to vote from people in Massachusetts because of the way that our system of policing and prison hyper-incarcerates Black and Latino voters in the state, or would-be voters in the state, and so that this is also a matter of racial justice. Kind of a testament to some of the work we do and the fact that I've had the chance to work closely with incarcerated organizers, they often speak about also just the sense of belonging, to feel like they're part of their community and have a say in, you know, the school boards that are impacting their children, the counselors and the decision makers who are making all these policies that really do impact them every day and their families, and having that sense of being able to have a say in the process. And kind of the final point is that there's so many upsides to re-enfranchising people and not removing the right to vote while people are incarcerated, but there's really no downsides. Felony disenfranchisement is not a deterrent of crime. And it also does, does not, on the flip side, actually restoring the right to vote does reduce recidivism because it kind of rebuilds those community ties. So there's a lot of upsides to reenfranchisement, and there's really no downsides. And so that's kind of what we're pushing forward. One of the kind of really interesting things that I think sometimes people aren't familiar with is that it was actually relatively recently that we revoked the right to vote from this group of people. So in the mid 1990s, well, for all of Massachusetts history, people could vote regardless of criminal conviction, just like the way it works in Maine and Vermont, our neighbors. But in the mid 1990s, in response to some kind of political organizing behind bars, then Governor Cellucci pushed forward a ballot measure to revoke the right to vote from people currently incarcerated for a felony conviction. And that ballot measure passed and changed the state constitution in the year 2000. And so it's a pretty recent change that we've done that big shift. And I think it's long overdue that we fix that. That it was a mistake at the time, and it's definitely a mistake now that we're even more kind of cognizant of the harms of the criminal system on our communities. And so, as I mentioned, because it was changed in 2000 by constitutional amendment, the way to fix it or the way to change it back is also by constitutional amendment. And so that's a very long process that our team is focused on. It involves legislative advocacy work. And then it also, there's a possibility for signature collection to lower certain thresholds in the legislature before it ultimately makes its way to voters. So it's a very long process. Kind of the stage we're at in this legislative session is we have two bills, S7 and H63, that were introduced by Senator Liz Miranda and Rep. Erica Idahoven this year, reintroduced because they were also introduced in the last legislative session. We had a really fantastic hearing in the Election Laws Committee on those amendments on April 1st. That hearing also continued kind of our priority of making sure that incarcerated voices were heard, and we had like live Zoom testimony from people at 3 different facilities in the state. And so right now we're kind of in a waiting period to see if the Election Laws Committee once again votes out the amendment favorably out of committee by the end of this month. And then there's kind of more work to do in the legislature. But one of the things we're hoping to do differently this year than in the past is kind of engage momentum across the state through more community organizing, more grassroots work, and collecting signatures, because as this shows, signature collection does lower the threshold. It has to pass in the legislature. But it also kind of is a signaling of the momentum and kind of is a really important way to engage people across the state. And so that's something that we're kind of thinking about launching at the end of the summer and the fall. And I know I threw a lot of information, so I'm more than happy to answer any questions. But we have kind of a small core team that meets weekly on Wednesdays at the moment from 6 to 7 p.m. It's kind of a mix of folks who are tied to certain organizations, representatives of those organizations, or just in the space as individuals who are interested. On this call, we also have people calling in from behind the wall. We are looking for organizations across the state to help kind of be this like really infrastructural support as we launch a signature collection over the summer and fall. And we will have a May 27th kickoff campaign virtual event, and I will make sure to forward the information about that to your team in case anyone from Solidarity would like to be there. There's always specific asks we can use help with, you know, that we have a sign-on letter, or just encouraging members to reach out to their lawmakers to support the legislation. And so those are kind of a few different ways to get involved. But I wanted to kind of come on here and share a little bit about our work, because we're really trying to engage more folks, engage organizations across the state, and also make the case of like why the time is now and why it's so necessary to kind of right this wrong in the state of Massachusetts.
Ozo.
Thank you very much for sharing, Caroline. So a couple of questions. So when somebody is found to be eligible to vote and they are incarcerated, by what means are they able to actually execute their vote? Would it be the mail-in? Would it just be that process? And then also, is this being made, are they being made aware of it statewide in all of the jails by all of the the wardens or whoever's running the facilities? Thank you.
Yeah, those are really good questions. And so a little bit on the mechanics of voting behind bars, it really does look like how it would look like to vote by mail in the state. And so, yeah, people can request absentee ballots, and then they can mail them back in. Our jail-based kind of voting side of the team also is piloting a mobile ballot box in a few Boston jails specifically, where they're able to like cast the ballot directly in kind of this box that goes cell to cell. But yes, that's the kind of mechanisms of it. And when everyone behind bars had the right to vote back before the 2000 amendment, that actually is also what the mechanism looked like. At the election laws hearing that happened earlier this month, there was a man who actually was incarcerated back in the 80s and 90s, and he said it was so simple that he used to just cast a ballot by mail at that time. And so the infrastructure is in place for that to restore voting rights to a wider group of people. As you mentioned, the other issue is, are people aware of it? That's the bigger problem. And I think that's what there was a push in 2022 when the Votes Act passed. There was some language, there's a few provisions in it that were focused on jail-based voting. So basically, before the Votes Act, it was people knowing their rights, knowing that they could fill out an absentee ballot, or knowing they could fill out the request to get an absentee ballot was really reliant on like local volunteer groups. And so there was very much a patchwork across the state. And what those jail-based voting provisions did in the Votes Act was try to standardize the process by requiring more of the departments of correction, requiring more on sheriffs, just kind of more affirmative expectations that they inform people of their rights and they facilitate that process for people who are currently incarcerated. And so that's what some of the team on our jail-based voting side of our larger project, they really focus on that kind of accountability of sheriffs and Department of Corrections and elections officials, and also, at least in the Boston area, hopefully can expand it further in future elections, actually going in and helping with that process.
Brian?
This might be a difficult one, and I don't have a good answer myself, but how do you respond to someone whose belief in this law is motivated by a need to see punishment, who doesn't really care whether or not the law actually stops people from doing harm? They just think that more punishment is always good because it makes people more obedient and tougher.
Yeah, it's tricky if it's just the punishment rationale, because I think there's a really strong argument that there's no deterrent rationale. No one before they commit a crime thinks, actually, I'm not going to do that because I'm going to lose my voting rights. I think that the punishment comes from the loss of freedom and liberty and all the other kind of restrictions that come from having a criminal conviction. And so it just adds this extra layer with no upside. I think my kind of bigger pushback to this idea of punishment is I actually don't think that our criminal system and our prisons are the perfect arbiter of morality. There are people in there who are not, who have not done crimes or have not done like crimes, things that we really want to punish in that way. And there are a lot of people who have committed crimes who are not in our prison system. And so I think conditioning something that's so fundamental as the right to vote on that very faulty system just shouldn't be part of that calculus. But that's definitely like a pushback we hear often. And I think a lot of times we try to emphasize like the kind of public safety upsides of like community reintegration when people do return from prison, and the lack of deterrent that this provides.
Is the slide deck that you presented going to be available to us?
Yes, I can definitely send the slide deck, but also a few other materials. As I mentioned, we have that May 27 event, and we have a few other sites. So I can send like a link with our kind of socials and website. Yeah, and then if people specifically want to kind of get on, I'll also put my email in the chat, because I kind of help coordinate some of the logistics of things. And if people want to just stay in the loop individually or as an organization, please let me know and I can add you to kind of some different lists. We have one for just kind of staying in the loop about specific actions for organizations, but then we also have a list where I send out the weekly Zoom link for our Wednesday meetings.
John?
Yeah, the other objection I've heard is about what town the inmates are voting in. That you could have like hundreds of people added to the voting rolls in a specific town who probably won't be going there when they get out, and the town people complain about that.
Yes, that's definitely something we hear a lot. But actually so because this was a process that happened before 2000, there's a Massachusetts like highest court case from the 70s saying that, and kind of since then, the kind of Secretary of Commonwealth has like reaffirmed this is the process, but people who are incarcerated are presumed to maintain their last address before incarceration and are presumed to vote there. So that means that the overwhelming majority of people would not be voting in kind of the towns where they're incarcerated, which often can skew more rural and are not where they're from. They would vote where their last maintained an address. Of course, people can overcome that presumption if they show they actually intend to reside in that state. And there are some like more complicated case with people who were dealing with homelessness before incarceration. But I think in general, one, there is kind of state judicial law saying people are presumed to maintain their address where they live prior to incarceration. And also that kind of aligns well with what people want. People want to vote on the kind of elected officials that impact their family and their community. They don't want to vote as much in the place where they're just incarcerated. So yeah, there is that is something that comes up often, but there's pretty clear guidance from the state on at least the presumption that guides that.
I have a weird one. So we met with our state senator a few years back, and I forget what the bill was exactly. It was something on the Progressive Mass agenda, but we were talking to him about folks with felonies being able to vote. And his response was odd. He said he didn't want to support it because he was worried like the corrections officers might influence their vote by paying them or something. It was a weird argument, and I had no idea how to counter that. We were just like, so I was just wondering if you've heard that one before.
No, it's actually funny. I've heard it like once before, but there is something to be said about the inherently coercive environment of being in prison. But I don't think, as much as I'm like voting is so important, I don't think voting is like, my sense is like that's going to be the thing that structures people's decisions while incarcerated. And I think there's ways that I mean, obviously some of our jails do this already, but as people kind of facilitate like filling out absentee ballots, that facilities can protect against that. And there are some sheriffs who are in the state who are quite on board with helping facilitate that process for people who are eligible. So I don't really know how to answer that, because I don't think that's a pretty non-concern. And I think that hopefully the solution to that problem would not be, well, let's remove the right to vote from those people. Hopefully it would be something else. Yeah.
Good hope. Right.
Also, I'd just respond that there are so many other environments that can be coercive in your voting, from abusive relationship to an abusive workplace where someone threatens consequences against you if your preferred candidate or ballot initiative doesn't win.
Absolutely, yeah.
Other questions? Anyone else online? Ozo.
Oh, Caroline, I don't know if you tried to connect with Kim over at Thrive or Greg at UTech. Those are two local nonprofits, and maybe might be a good connection to develop.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely heard the names of the organizations, but I'll look into reaching out to them.
Yeah, Thrive does, they help folks who are just out of prison like reintegrate. And then UTech is helps young folks to prevent them from going into like jail gangs or that kinds of stuff. Yeah. They're fantastic. They're a really good org. And they just lost a lot of funding, so they need help. All right, Joe?
Caroline, do you have opponents? Is there an organized opposition to this?
That's a good question. I have not encountered, I mean, I don't want to like put us down and say maybe it's the fact that we haven't been making waves enough yet. I think when we were doing the jail-based voting work in 2022, there were very few opponents to that because that was enforcing laws that already are on the books and just making sure people can enjoy those rights in practice. I do think we will have opposition kind of just alongside the veins of the kind of counter arguments you all have thrown out. A lot of people who kind of really believe in like the punitive version of the criminal justice system. When we had the April 1st hearing in the election laws committee, it was like over 2 hours of testimony, and everyone who did testify was in favor of the bills. But there is definitely opposition. Like there's a reason why statewide, I mean, nationwide, that this is not the policy across the country. But I think the time is now, and I think it's time for Massachusetts to lead on this as well. And this is the policy. Maine, Vermont, Washington, D.C., and Puerto Rico do not condition your right to vote on criminal conviction or incarceration status. So we would be joining that company.
Trayvon?
Hi, thank you, Caroline. I just want to know like how like any new challenge due to the current administration, any impact or any challenge that you have to deal with?
Of the new administration, I think a lot of our work right now is really community grounded. So because we're not so top down, although we have some grant funding, we're hoping that to kind of continue to mobilize on a grassroots recognition. And also I think because so the reason that I think the Votes Act and the jail-based voting was able to be so successful in 2022 is it came after a specific moment of both the 2020 election and kind of renewed focus on how we vote and voting restrictions, but also after in 2020 Black Lives Matter movement and a push to reevaluate our kind of criminal legal system in many ways. And I think there's also another moment to like use the fact that nationwide things are really scary and that there's kind of crumbling of democracy to say Massachusetts, it's time to actually show that we value this so universally. And it kind of goes beyond just like especially because we work so closely with currently incarcerated people, we really learned that it goes beyond just like actually who you vote for. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it really is this kind of sense of community and gets deeply to our ideals about our criminal legal system. And so I think the time is now to push for that. I remember Rep. Erica Idahoven had a really good comment in the election laws committee hearing where she kind of tied it to the fact that like with what's happening nationwide, we should particularly do this. So we haven't been like our work as a team hasn't been impacted, but I think everyone has been in many ways.
Anyone else? Questions?
Are you afraid of being branded as a terrorist by the Trump administration?
Let's hope not. Let's hope not. But you never know.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Caroline. This was really great.
Thank you. And I have both Amy and Ryan Oates' contact information, so I'll make sure to send them any kind of follow-up materials just so people have this.
Great. Thank you
All
so
right,
much.
thanks for having me.
Have a good one.
Thanks.
All right, so let me share this again. I don't know which one. No, this one. Okay, so our next that is not helpful. It does this all the time. All right, next meeting is on Sunday, May 18th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. Please note that this is 1 week early. Normally we're on the 4th Sunday. This is the 3rd Sunday of the month because of Memorial Day. We didn't want to interfere with folks' long weekend. And it will be again, unless there's, a horrible plague, it'll be hybrid at UCC Drake here and on Zoom. And our featured speaker is Maroni Minter, the political director for MIRA. So we're very excited about that. Hopefully all of you can join us. All right, if this would work, there we go. You can always join us on our Facebook page, which has public events, photos, and more, but no discussions or members-only events. And our Facebook group, which has, you can have a discussion, access to all of our events, including members only, and all that good stuff. You can visit us at solidaritylowell.com, follow us on Instagram, Blue Sky, Twitter, Threads, et cetera, and you can watch meeting recordings on YouTube and on LTC. We thank you so much for attending and see you next month. Have a great night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Ah.